Hey, what's up everyone? Happy 4th of July. That's gonna date this video quite a bit. Welcome back to Let's Play Shadow of the Colossus HD. Last time we defeated Hydrus, the electric eel, the 7th Colossus. Today we are going to be going after Colossi numbers 8 and 9. That was probably the most vague hint we've received about where this Colossus is located. But Dormin's hint did give us a pretty good clue about what this Colossus number 8 is all about. The shadow that crawls on the walls. Dare say a spoiler. Dormin is spoiling the game for us. Spoilers. So I believe this Colossus is known by the fans as Kuromori, and he is a pretty unique Colossus, in case that hint from Dormin didn't give you an idea of what he's all about. He's pretty unique, and he's the first of its type that we're going to be fighting. Its most unique feature is that he is the only Colossus in the game to climb walls. And he's located, I think this is either a little bit left or a little right of that first cliffside area where you go to make your way up to the first Colossus. And you head through this darkened canyon, and eventually Aggro, I'm gonna have to abandon her because she doesn't do well with the cliffside we're coming up to. Now, is it over here to the right? I always forget where this Colossus is, actually. Might present a little bit of a problem. I don't think I've gotten lost en route to any of them yet, so that's not too bad. There should be a cave around here that I'm looking for. Oh, right, the cave right in front of my face. Excellent. Sometimes the solar GPS can steer you just a little bit wrong, or at the very least, it can make you take pathways that lead to dead ends and force you to kind of circle back and trial and error your way through a number of pathways before you get to the right one. Oh shit. Here is the point at which I have to abandon Aggro, because she just doesn't want to move at full speed along these ledges. Maybe if I call her a bunch, she'll kind of gallop towards me and catch up. Either way, the next Colossus we're heading towards isn't located all that far away from us, so even if Aggro decides to not cooperate, that's not a problem. Matter of fact, right, there's this underground cavernous lake. I believe this is a little bit underground. It's leading to a temple. And Aggro wouldn't have been able to cross here anyway. So that's fine, we'll leave her. Actually, wait. Oh, okay. I always wind up swimming across this lake. Didn't realize there was this path here on the far right. Oh, no swimming necessary. Yeah, Aggro could have totally joined me. She could have hopped this, no problem. I don't think we've seen Aggro do any of her jumps yet. So we'll make our way into the temple. This is a pretty neat little area, and it feels like it's been kind of a while since we've had to do any real platforming to reach a Colossus. We had to do some fairly intensive platforming. I say intensive just because I always screw up that one jump. To make it to the third Colossus, Obviously, the path to the very first Colossus of the game requires a decent amount of platforming because that serves as your tutorial to the platforming. This is the first time you really have to do any climbing and jumping since quite a while, and I will go ahead and screw that up. This is why it's important that they give you occasional platforming sections to the Colossus, not to the Colossi, not just because it breaks up the tedium of just traveling on horseback straight towards every Colossus, but because it kind of reminds you of the controls that you're going to be needing, and the platforming becomes more and more important as you go deeper into the game, as the Colossi become ever more complex. In fact, if you don't have all of these skills down, all of these platforming skills, if you don't have them pretty well dialed in by the time you reach the 16th and final Colossus, you're gonna have a very, very bad time going after him. I really, really like this giant vertical circular arena. It's definitely very different from previous arenas, and it's fitting because Kuromori, the Lizard Colossus, is a very different kind of fight. For starters, I said before, it's the first of its kind, and what I mean by that is this lizard is the first Colossus to have a projectile attack. He is also the only Colossus in the game to be able to climb walls. That scared the hell out of me. Oh, recording on the 4th of July is a bad idea because there are fireworks going on. Anyway, let's try to avoid the Lizard Colossus, his fireworks. So first we'll fire down on him at the bottom of the arena to get his attention. Now he'll pick, I think it's a random wall to climb on up. He'll usually climb to the same level you're on. You can see he has glowing legs. Those are, of course, weak points. If you hit 2 of his legs, he falls off the wall onto his back, and that's your opportunity to attack his weak point on his belly. And I got it. Took me a couple of shots because I couldn't get the arrow I needed to go straight. Ah, shit. Well, you could just kind of jump straight off and then do that little dance, gripping onto the lower ledges. Somehow you don't dislocate your shoulder, but what I would really like to do before this battle is over, just for maximum style points, I want to jump straight off the top floor onto his belly, and you can totally pull that off, and you can do it without taking damage, because as long as you grip at the last second, you will not take falling damage. It's pretty great. Okay, he's rolling over, and camera's freaking out. Was hoping I could maybe get one more stab off. This fight, if done right, should not really take all that long. You'll usually be able to get 3 or 4 good charged attacks in on his 2 weak points on his underbelly before he'll roll over and toss you off. There's also, as far as I know, he's finally doing his projectile. He didn't get a chance to on his first go around. So his projectile is not only dangerous because it does damage directly, it also leaves this poisonous cloud of gas behind. And you'll see why this is one of the most dangerous Colossi we've fought so far, because that lingering cloud of orange gas actually drains your health quite rapidly. And there's something to note about this arena. Oh shit, he shot it on the upper floor. I'm just gonna run straight through. You can see how rapidly it does damage, though. You have to be kind of careful. There we go. I was looking for an opening. Now we'll shoot his legs 2 more times. He does slowly start to learn, and he'll slowly start to hide from you. That's not the leg I was going for, but I'll take it. Now, is he going to land in a position? I don't think I can make that jump. Oh well. Not going to die from that falling damage. Falling damage is pretty low in this game. And a couple more stabs should do it. He shouldn't get a chance to escape this time. Short fight, but very aggressive one. If you give him the chance, if it's your first time, he'll usually get a lot more shots off. Very fun mobile fight, though. The next fight, however, is going to be even more aggressive than this one. I was gonna say, there is kind of a cool, very glitchy trick you can do with this boss. You can actually sometimes get onto its stomach while it's climbing up the walls. It's very rare that you get the opportunity to do that, but it's fun. Very glitchy though. You can kind of, the physics kind of freak out when you do that, and it can launch you into the skybox. But that's gonna be it for Kuromori, the 8th Colossus, the Lizard. Next up, number 9, Basaran the Tortoise. So we'll go and save once more. And did I call the Lizard number 8? I don't think so. Okay. We'll see what's going on with Mono and Dormin, and then we will head after number 9. Well, the opening to that cutscene was new, with the vignetted film grain look. It actually looks a little bit like Reminiscence Mode, which I somehow haven't talked about yet. Oh, real quick, you got a good look at it here. That's the first time I've actually noticed it in-game during this playthrough, but you can see on the middle of Agro's forehead, she has this glowing sigil. I think I was talking about this last time when I was talking about the connections between Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. So you not only have the pattern on Mono's dress, on Wander's scarf, cape, his attire, the same marking appears on Agro's forehead, and the sigils that signify the weaknesses of the Colossi. They are all the same or very similar patterns to what was on Ico's tunic. Some more similarities or connections between Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. One I forgot to point out last time is the shadow people that seem to be surrounding you every time you wake up after having defeated a Colossus. I'll have more to talk about towards the end of the game. Unfortunately, the plot unfolds very, very slowly. And it makes it difficult to talk lore and speculate about all that stuff until we reach the end. But right now, we're heading towards this big, ominous, foreboding black cloud in the distance, as Dormin told us that the next Colossus resides in a dried-up lake bed. For the first time, didn't really give us a hint about what the Colossus is going to be like, but instead gave a pretty good clue about where the Colossus is. Kind of a role reversal from before. Anyway, a little bit more about Reminiscence Mode. So you might be wondering what all those pillars of light are in the distance. You've been seeing them pop up more and more often for every Colossus that's been defeated. They're marking the locations of all the dead Colossi. And that's because you can walk up to any of the corpses of the Colossi, which just turn into kind of like mounds of rocks and earth, and you can fight them again in what's called Reminiscence Mode. And in Reminiscence Mode, the fights don't really change, you just get this grainy, old-timey film filter, similar to what we saw in the beginning of that cutscene when we arrived back in the temple. And there are a couple of Colossi, one of which we haven't fought yet, but two that we have, you can't see their pillars of light because they were inside temples. Kuromori, the last one we just got done fighting, and Barba. But this is Basaran, the Tortoise. And he comes with some nasty, nasty surprises. This music is very fitting for this fight because despite the fact that he is a very slow, lumbering tortoise enemy, he has a projectile and he is far, far more aggressive with it than the last Colossus, than the lizard. You can see he kind of shoots these bullets of energies non-stop, and if they hit you, they will not only knock you off of aggro, they'll do pretty significant amounts of damage. So the goal, you might have seen all of these geysers littered around the arena, so our first goal is to lure Basaran out of his cave while simultaneously avoiding his projectiles. Now, I'm constantly turning around to fire shots into his armored hide, and that's because I just want to keep him focused on me and I want to keep him moving towards me. I want to keep him kind of mobile and heading towards the geysers. They'll become very important soon, just as soon as I can lure him directly underneath one. I like to liken Basaran to Gaius, the third Colossus, because they can both be very dangerous, they're both extremely slow, and they both require positioning to get them to interact with some part of their respective arenas before you can climb on top of them. Oh shit. And that is not good. This is where having a better mastery of the L1, the Colossus lock-on, while moving around would probably work in my benefit. Wait, was he stomping or was he getting pushed up by the geyser? Oh shit, I probably just missed a good opportunity. Either way, he's in a pretty good position, I think. Maybe I want him a little bit more towards the left. I think that's the case. Or is it lifting him? I'm not sure. No, there it is. Okay. Shit. Yeah, I didn't handle this well. The geyser will lift him up when directly firing off underneath him. That gives you a chance to fire into his exposed, the undersides of his feet. And I screwed that up. I'm not gonna bother getting back onto aggro, though. I should get another chance. As long as he doesn't move from where he is right now, the geyser should start up again soon. I missed that first opportunity, though, and that sucks, because sometimes it can be a pain in the ass to position him the way you want. I got lucky and he didn't move around once I dismounted aggro, though. So now we can just fire point blank. Oh, it's not quite the bottom of his feet. They're kind of these little joints underneath. Once you hit two of them, though, he can no longer maintain his balance, and he flips over onto his shell. So now that he's in this vulnerable turtle position, we can come around to his underside and jump onto this patch of fur on his belly. And this is where the fight becomes... I don't want to quite say trivial. He can still cost you time and knock you off just by shaking around and stuff. But by this point in the fight, he can no longer hurt you. His projectile attacks, which is really what makes Basaran dangerous, he no longer has access to that. So what you want to do is you want to climb onto his side. Whoop! Whoa! Whoa! Okay, maybe avoid getting flung around quite that much. And you can get up here now to his head. And even though he's finally managed to get himself upright, there is nothing he can do but flail his head all over the place and try to knock you down. This is a boss that's pretty easy to grip onto, and you can see he doesn't actually have that much health. Just a couple of stabs are doing tremendous amounts of damage. He's a boss that on normal mode does not have more than one weak point, so at this point in the fight, he is no longer dangerous. He's tricky in the early portion of the fight because he can do so much damage. He can knock you off the horse, he can do a whole lot of damage with his projectiles, and then on top of all of that, you're leading him around on horseback, trying to keep his attention on you, and you're trying to lead him under a geyser so you can get him tipped up on his side to hit his minor weak points. That's all. The early portion of this fight's all very tricky and very fun, but once you get on top of him, it's just a matter of finishing him off. Just a formality at this point. And with one or two more stabs, that will be it for the noble Basaran, the Tortoise, the 9th Colossus. You know, wait for him to stop shaking his head around. It's pretty hard to fall off at this point. There's so much just around his back, his head, so many areas just to latch onto, plus directly above his brain is a patch of fur, and he doesn't move around all that much, so falling off at this point is kind of impossible. That's it for Basaran, though. I really enjoy the two Colossi that I fought this episode, even though I kind of made them look easy and they went down extremely quickly. They're pretty interesting fights, especially if you're doing this for the first time. You don't necessarily reach the highs, no pun intended, that you do with Avion, where Avion's just always exciting because it's such a spectacular fight. These are more kind of in-depth fights, which, once you know the tricks to them, are pretty easy to get around. Fun and unique battles, nonetheless. But that's going to do it for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy. Have a good one.